Mrs. McQuinn. Mrs. McQuinn.
I'm busy recruiting too. I'm sorry.
All right, so where we left off, Miss Brill, she's going to be a while. Miss Ayala is going to be a while. Is we were going to decide whether we like the statement that you see up there in yellow, which is the final thoughts that we had after you left the room. So if everybody's in agreement on that one, Dr. Robinson?
Oh, yeah, this is why you have to get up when you're taking a test after you review it one time before you start changing your answers, right? So how about to educate, affirm, and inspire each student in an equity embedded school system?
That was a good break, Dr. Robinson. That's good. That's good.
Okay.
For the record, when Dr. Robinson put out there preparing you to make your dreams come true, there's one issue with that statement, and I know we're not considered, but I just wanted to say this. I think for a lot of our children, they don't even know how to dream, right? Like, I think it's more than just, we need to, you know, I don't know if I'm saying this correctly, but I think a lot of them can't see beyond their circumstances. And so in my experience as a principal, a lot of it was just helping them see the world is bigger than what you think it is to dream, to aspire to that thing. So that was just, if we use that type of terminology, I think we all need to understand for some kids, it's just developing dreams. They've never been told that they can think beyond their own circumstances. So that was the only thing I wanted to add there.
Thank you, Dr. Fenoy, and that's one of the reasons why I like the word inspire in this, because it's exactly what you're talking about, is to have an environment and relationships with our students that we can inspire them to think big, you know, and bigger than what they may have been exposed to or had the ability to be able to see.
Ms. McQuinn, then Dr. Robinson.
Don't lose your thought, Dr. Robinson. So as we get to the, when we make it a complete sentence, the School District of Palm Beach County, can we say will educate, affirm, and inspire? Rather than being committed to? Rather than we start with is committed to, because we can't just say to. So I'd like the School District of Palm Beach County will educate, affirm, and inspire each student.
If you're going to do the sentence that way, that would work. I was writing it out, looking at the format in the vision statements to consider, and what I wrote was the mission of the School District of Palm Beach County is to educate, affirm, and inspire each student in an equity embedded school system. Is that communicating what you were thinking? Just want to make sure I'm tracking with you.
I just want it to be an action statement. We're saying we're going to do it. So.
Will? Okay, we'll stick with will then, if it doesn't matter. So I don't know if you can see it on the screen, Ms. Furtakis. It says the School District of Palm Beach County will educate, affirm, and inspire each student in an equity embedded school system.
Okay, thank you. Okay. All right. Ms. Brill, just to get you caught up very quickly with what we were doing, one of the what this is communicating, which I support. It very clearly states what the district's core work is and what you are considering the district's core work to be, which is to educate, to affirm your students, and inspire. That covers whole child. When we're talking about social emotional learning, the climate that they're in, it's focusing on students. And equity embedded is a pretty powerful way to phrase this, because it means that it is going to be infused across everything that you do, which takes work. That's a lot of action. Part of that work will be happening in your strategic plan. It also makes it very clear that this is everyone's responsibility, not somebody in an equity office, not somebody on just a team, but this is everyone's responsibility within your school system.
Dr. Robinson, I'm sorry, you asked to speak after Ms. McQuinn.
That's fine. So I feel compelled to follow up on Dr. Fenoy's comment to say, I want us to understand that the system as it exists now kills the dreams of some students, right? And so it's like, so I just hope we get that, because we're talking, I don't really know if we're all seeing the same thing. I hope we are, but I just want us to not only help children develop dreams, but to stop killing the dreams. So, thanks.
Thank you, Dr. Robinson. Ms. Furtakas?
So at this point, I would like to have somebody on the board read what you have out loud and do a temperature check on consensus.
The school district of Palm Beach County will educate, affirm, and inspire each student in an equity-embedded school system. Everybody okay with that? So we'll put it on the agenda for the May 5th school board meeting for adoption. Ms. Ayala,
Fantastic.
what you see on the screen there is what the board, 6 of us would like to bring forward on the 5th for adoption.
Looks great, thank you.
Okay? We got 7 yeses on that one.
Okay, so we're going to do something now that boards and superintendent teams don't take enough time to do. I want you to just applaud yourselves because this is really significant. So take a moment to acknowledge what you have just done. All right, and now we're going to move into vision. And Ms. Villavicencio, if you can pull up the current vision statement, and then we've got some suggestions of some statements to consider, words to consider. And just as a reminder, the vision is aspirational. It's to be reflective of what your preferred future is for your students and your system. And this can be as short or as long as you would like it to be. Some districts keep it pretty short. Others have felt the need to elaborate more.
Okay, we have it up on our screen.
Okay. So your current vision statement, I'm going to read it out loud because sometimes it's just helpful to hear things too. The school district of Palm Beach County envisions a dynamic, collaborative, multicultural community where education and lifelong learning are valued and supported, and all learners reach their highest potential and succeed in the global economy.
Mrs. McQuinn?
Well, I thought I liked it, but no, no, I don't. So I was looking at and I know we'll start massaging it, but under vision on page 2 of 3 in our handout, the second one, the second sentence, which is just one sentence, but committed to ensuring that all learners are fully prepared to succeed. I like that, in a culturally diverse, I know we're not good with that, Dr. Robinson, culturally diverse and ever-changing world. Because it is an ever-changing world, and we've got to recognize that. I like that one. Maybe we can start messing with that one.
Ms. Brill?
Thank you. So I picked a different one to start working with, but I like the cultural, I can't read wherever it is, the end of what you said, like plugging it in, but I was looking at the top of page 3 earlier, but I crossed out on the third line, the and can. So it's, see if I can read it. The school district of Palm Beach County is an educational and working environment unimpeded by bias or discrimination, where individuals of all backgrounds and experiences are welcomed, included, encouraged, succeed, and flourish. So I thought that was, because I don't want to say and can, because I want them, my vision is that they are going to succeed and flourish.
Dr. Robinson?
Okay, so can we start with accepting the fact that the vision statement is not going to be a single short paragraph? So we can all get our stuff in, because I think it needs to be like an overarching statement, which I don't know which one at this point, and there's some bullet points. For me, I close it with "we see you" or some similar statement. Okay, because I think we just refuse to see the gifts and talents that children bring with them, and we continue to evaluate and judge children for what we view they are not. And that is not how we get children to rise. Nobody, you get more flies with honey, right? I mean, we need to see them and who they are and their wholeness. And for some of our children, the fact that they showed up means that they are really invested in their own education, because they don't have the blessings that we would hope they had. So for me, those 3 words right there mean what I want us to become. So I don't know if y'all need an asterisk on that too, but I need us to see the whole child and embrace the whole child and push them up.
If I could add to that, I think a lot of times we find statements like this, or let me say, not statements. In practice, a lot of us approach the work from a deficit mindset, meaning, we do it as a governance team sometimes. We will focus on the negative things that we're doing and never even talk about the great things that are happening. And so when you're talking about kids, so I never owned a pair of jeans in school. My mother, we couldn't afford it, and we weren't allowed to wear jeans. And so when you have one pair of pants, there comes a point, and people who come from this world will understand it, when your pants start getting shiny, because you don't wash them regularly, right? And so for some people, they will view you as a dirty child, or your parents aren't good enough. And so this idea of looking at people in terms of what they can become, and trying to change that mindset versus what they don't bring to the table, because it's our job to fill those gaps. So a statement that isn't so deficit mindset, in the deficit mindset.
Mrs. McQuinn?
What do we mean by, I'm to the one that Ms. Brill brought up, the first sentence on the 3rd page. What do we mean by "and working environment"? What do we mean by "and working"?
If I can answer that.
Go ahead, Ms. Brill.
When I read that, it was just including the people that work for us as well. Our vision, yes, we're an educational institution, but I also envision us, our vision encompassing all the people that work for the district. So that's what I mean.
Yeah.
That's what I
Agree with
how I read it, as a working environment.
Yeah, I did too.
One of the ways you can, I have a couple of thoughts with what's been said. One of the ways you can set this up that some have done is you may have an introductory sentence, and then underneath it, there are bullet points that are incorporating different aspects of your system, and then you're elaborating what that means. So, for example, this and the working environment, that might be a bullet point, where this is what we mean by this. In our operations, this is what we mean. For students, this is what our vision is. So that is a way to frame it. There's also, and this was included on page 3 of examples of mission statements, and to getting to Dr. Robinson's comment about the We See You. The first one, Highline Public Schools, is basically, that is what they're saying, is that every student is known by name, strength, and need. So without using the word equity, they put need in there to make that clear. It being asset-based is the strength piece, and by name, so all of those are, the three words together are encompassing this concept of we see you. So there are, and they use that as their tagline for everything that they do. So there are also, phrases that districts are using to encompass what a longer statement might be saying.
Mrs. Andrews and Mrs. Whitfield.
Thank you, Mrs. Patakis, because as I looked at the different districts and looking at these statements, that's what I was talking about a little earlier. They had a preface once they did their vision. Certainly sometimes it was an opening statement, the vision itself, and then they would have what those important factors were that were actually mentioned in that vision piece to break it down for people who wanted to have a better understanding of where they wanted to go based on the vision. So I saw that with a lot of school districts.
Mrs. Whitfield.
So I like from the bolded one, specifically, I like the part about backgrounds and experience are welcome. I think that's just awesome. I'm a big fan of that. I really like the Highline Public Schools part as well. I think knowing each person, it really conveys that personal attention, and I really like embracing people for what they bring. So not starting with that deficit model. And then at the one that you can kind of not really see on the bottom where it says we embrace families and community as authentic education partners where learning becomes more dynamic and students can grow academically, socially, and emotionally. I also really like that part too. So if we're going for a big one, maybe we can include pieces of all of that.
Mrs. McQuinn.
So going back up to where it says welcomed, I like embraced a lot. We don't just welcome you, we embrace you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Instead of, yeah.
I like that.
It's difficult for me to see, Ms. Villavicencio, are you pulling some of these phrases and putting them up on the, just trying to figure out how
Yes.
they're being highlighted for the board to consider?
Yes, I am trying my best, but I am putting them up there.
She's doing a great job.
Thank you.
As we speak, she's typing.
Thank you so much.
Mrs. McQuinn.
I'm going to worry this to death about the working environment. It's the only one out of all of these that doesn't reference just students. So I just want us to talk about it.
Dr. Robinson.
So, yeah, I do think that we need to say something. One of the bullet points needs to address the adults. I mean, because and I almost thought about including adults in the vision statement, but I knew you guys wouldn't like that. So I do think that we should have a bullet on that. But I want to add that this statement from North Clackamas, I really like. For each student, a joy of learning is fostered, a positive vision for the future is nurtured, each student's cultural heritage is valued, and their physical, emotional, and social needs are supported. The joy of learning, golly, man, if we could just get that for every student, I
love joy of learning. I think that's great.
That particular school district, because of the work that they've been doing, which this vision statement is a result of, I think I put in the notes from December, they have done a phenomenal job of closing achievement gaps as indicated on standardized tests, but they closed a 45 percentage point gap between graduation of their Hispanic Latinx students and their white students. And it's a smaller percentage. It's a small percentage of the district's population. They're located just outside of Portland, Oregon, But it was such significant growth because when we're talking about equity, it is need-based, and they were seeing from their data there were huge gaps there. They have also, you can find this on their website. They have taken this, part of the way they're embedding this is they have now put a statement at the beginning of their job descriptions that is related to what their equity expectations are, and that this is included as part of the job description. And people need to be able to respond to that and how they will be able to contribute to the district's expectations around what equity means.
Comments? Mrs. Andrews?
Yeah, I like that one, Dr. Robinson, about the joy of learning, because we do have so many students who truly love to learn, but so many students have been turned off by just circumstances, and they don't feel good about learning, so they actually just check out. And so when we look at that piece, I could see that if we could put something in there where it says heritage back, and their physical, emotional, I would want to put academic and social needs are supported. I would just put the academic piece in that one. And then I think all bases would be covered.
You say that one more time, Mrs. Andrews.
Mrs. Andrews, turn your mic back on.
Physical, emotional, put academic in there, social needs, just to make it all of it, everything, because it really is about them having academic success.
Thank you.
Mrs. McQuinn?
And I think if we can take some words directly from our draft equity statement, then we're being parallel with that in that third paragraph. We take ownership for their academic mastery, their emotional intelligence, and social emotional needs. Maybe if we use the same words in here. Hey, I'm embedding.
I like it.
We like embedding.
Put your microphone on, Ms. Vilcenci, so Ms. Fotakis can hear you.
Sorry. So Mrs. McQuinn, that goes, we take ownership of,
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, so with our draft equity statement in our third paragraph, it says we take, here's where we are with what Mrs. Andrew was saying. Students' academic mastery, emotional intelligence, and social emotional needs. So then we're pulling from our equity statement into our vision or mission. Want me to keep going?
no, I got it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Ms. Fotakis, Ms. Vilcenci
so,
she's typing on the screen for us so we can see the whole thing.
I also, a question I have for you is, I've heard two suggestions, and I just want to see where the board is leaning. Are you wanting to do a statement like a paragraph, or are you wanting to do like an overarching statement and some bullet points underneath it so that you've got, for example, somewhere that you're including the adults in the system? Because this vision is, the vision statement is for your entire system.
Ms. McQuinn?
So if we go along with Mrs. Andrews' suggestion that we have an opening statement, if we go from our, from our equity statement right to this one, then we're including staff and we're including families, so it might be a good place for us to start as an opening statement. Literally pulling from our equity. 'Cause
So which one did you want first?
I would start where we have the draft equity statement, but so
Okay.
if we pull directly from that as an opening statement for our mission. I'm so confused. Whichever one we're doing now. So, and I need to know, I need to get myself straightened out on that. We did our mission, now we're doing our vision, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Correct.
So we envision a school district where we take ownership for students' academic mastery and where students, families, yeah. So I like starting with a beginning statement like that because it's then where we can put our bullets.
Oh, I love that. That's really nice.
Can I just clarify, Mr. Barbieri? I have shared this document with Mary, but Mary only has one screen. I've had this conversation with her before, so this is really an intervention, but she does have access to the document, so apologize for the technology issues.
Okay.
Mary, you're gonna have to get up to speed on multiple screens.
Yeah.
Either that or you got to come here and visit us in person. These are your options.
I get my second vaccine on April 28th, so
Yay.
good. Okay. Yes, thank you. So it's a little bit of the I'm listening very intently to things, and so there's going to be a reason why I'm going to ask for you on occasion to also read some things out loud. Not just for my benefit, but again, it feels differently when you can hear the words rather than just looking at them.
So board members, are we looking at those two paragraphs as without any bullets?
So some of the things in the first part are also in the second part, right? I just feel like they're not independent of each other. Does that make sense?
Ms. Brill? Yes, I think it does.
So, and I thought that when we have our vision and mission statement, we are going to have our equity statement with it. So I just think it's too redundant having that first paragraph repeating what we already have that's going to be partnered with it. So, Mrs. McQuinn, I don't mean to disagree, but I just think it's duplicating.
It's a good
what we
question.
have.
How will we do it? Will we have all three at the same time? Is that the plan?
Well,
This morning I spoke to, I think, Ms. Vicencio or Mr. Tierney, and all three of those statements will be on the district homepage, the vision, mission, and the equity statement.
And also, if you look at some of the material we got with the strategic plans, you see them listed at the beginning of the strategic plan. So I thought we were doing it as pieces of it.
Good question.
Yes, it is a complete package because you want alignment.
So just to follow up, then my thought is that we remove that paragraph that was added because it's redundant.
Right, the first paragraph. Sorry, Ms. McQuinn, but it's already in the equity statement. Microphone.
I don't disagree with that, but then I don't love the second, I don't love what's left. I don't know why. It
Could we-
doesn't inspire me, the educational and working environment. I need to be inspired. And I don't love unimpeded by bias or discrimination. I just don't love it.
Could we move the every student in Highline Public Schools piece to the top? Obviously not with Highline, but. Oh yeah, where did
Meredith.
Joy of Learning go?
Get that up there.
Dr. Robinson?
Okay, so it's something, it seems weird to me that we're going to remove a statement because it's part of the equity statement while we're saying equity is going to be embedded in everything we do. Something about that is not working well in my brain. So we're not putting the entire equity statement here. This part doesn't even have the word equity, right? But I think that conversation about taking ownership was very important. And so I don't want that first paragraph removed. I don't know, at this moment, I'm not sure what paragraph should be the opening paragraph to the vision statement. But I think that taking ownership piece is critical, and that's something that we have not done. We blame whoever, typically the families, right? say, well, they're poor, they can't, whatever, instead of, but we get paid. So I think that's an important statement, and just because it exists in the equity statement doesn't mean to me that it should not exist here. I mean, it could be tweaked, maybe, to make you feel better, but I don't know, it's not working for me to say we're embedding equity, but then we're not going to have that paragraph because it exists someplace else. It's not working for me.
Mrs. Whitfield, then Mrs. Andrews, then Ms. Brill.
So I think we should keep it. I kind of like it. I know it is redundant, but I do think it makes sense here. Just to pull that piece, it's a very positive piece. But I've been looking at the second paragraph, and I think maybe that one should be moved to the front. The school district of Palm Beach County is an educational and working environment unimpeded by bias or discrimination. I think that's a good way to start it. And then the next one for me would be the school district of Palm Beach County will take ownership for students' academic mastery. And then I really do think we need to bring joy up somewhere. Maybe it could be the third paragraph where we talk about joy, and then go through each one and make sure we're not saying something twice. Because I think, since we're pulling in pieces from different statements.
Ms. Brill, you want to follow up?
Well, I just wanted to jump in and say that was exactly what I was going to say, is that if we switch the order, when Dr. Robinson said maybe it shouldn't be the lead, then I'm okay with it. So I was going to say exactly what Mrs. Whitfield said, so.
Mrs. Andrews?
And I don't need to repeat it because I think you get the gist of what we're talking about. All three are very powerful, and you don't want to miss a beat on either. And
Dr. Fenoy?
Yeah, I think the way you've worked this out makes sense in my mind. I think I understand what Ms. Brill is saying, but I think the repetition is important for the consistency for the whole organization, because if it's repeated multiple times, then they know you're serious about it, right? So I love the way you guys just wordsmith that, because it does, because I would the joy piece, that's really aspirational. It's like, I don't know if I've ever seen that in a vision, and I think that is very unique, and I don't know, just something about the word. It's like it is, because I think we often describe our kids. Let's be clear, coming out of COVID, and I think moving forward for the next 3 to 5 years, there's going to be a lot of lack of joy. And so we're going to have to be intentional about creating joy, to be honest with you. And so I really like how y'all figured that part out.
Dr. Robinson?
So in the first paragraph, I would like something stronger than encouraged. Not quite, I don't have the word on the tip of my tongue, but something stronger than encouraged.
So do I, and we have not yet brought up, I'm losing it, the positive vision for their future is nurtured. Because flourish, we know what flourish means, but if we say they have a positive vision for their future and we're nurturing that, and I don't think, by the way, we can get rid of welcomed. Instead of welcomed, we had embraced. Yeah. And I don't know if then we need included, but I don't really feel strongly one way or the other about it.
Dr. Fenoy just had a suggestion for a word as he was walking out, so I'm passing his word along. Expected to succeed and flourish.
That's better than encouraged, but I still feel like I'm not there yet. Like, that's not the magic word, but it's definitely better than encouraged.
What about just will succeed and flourish? Take out expected to and just put will succeed and flourish.
Okay, that's getting there.
that's better.
I mean, does that, I almost wonder if that sets us up for failure.
We haven't brought joy in there yet, and I'm going to get it in there, so.
So we have three paragraphs up there. Is that what you're all suggesting? Those three that are up there, including the one that has the joy of learning in the middle of it? Ms. Brill?
I can't read what's there, but I don't know if anyone's used the word inspired anywhere in there too,
Yeah, I love that word.
because I just like the word inspired.
Is that better, Ms. Brill?
Yeah, a little bit.
Would someone be willing to read what you have at this point, please?
Well, what we have is 3 paragraphs that my understanding is the board doesn't want to include all 3 of them. So, and I can read what's there. We can figure out what we want to take away. The school district of Palm Beach County is an educational and working environment unimpeded by bias or discrimination, where individuals of all backgrounds and experiences are embraced and included and will succeed and flourish. The school district of Palm Beach County will take ownership for students' academic mastery, emotional intelligence, and social emotional needs by creating environments where students, families, staff, and communities will develop agency and voice. For each student, a joy of learning is fostered, a positive vision for their future is nurtured. Each student's cultural heritage is valued, and their physical, emotional, academic, and social needs are supported.
We see you.
I like it.
It's actually really good.
It really
I
sounds
like
good.
it.
Hearing it, hearing it, it sounds really good.
There's too many ands in that first paragraph, though.
Mrs. McQuinn, then Dr. Robinson.
Well, okay, if there are too many ands, then we need to fix that. No, I'm sorry, that was it's, never mind. I
Embraced
agree with
and
you.
included and will succeed.
Well, he read it, Mr. Barbieri read it with commas. And so, well, he did. That's what we teach kids.
I was going to say, I
right?
believe you as a
Comma
reading
where you
teacher.
pause. See,
You put up a comma after the word included?
after environment, unimpeded by bias or discrimination, comma, where individuals of all backgrounds and experiences are embraced. Do we want and included? Doesn't embrace mean you include them?
Yes.
Thank you.
They can be
So if we got
synonymous.
rid of and included,
No, don't get rid of
Keep
embraced. We
embraced.
like embraced.
Yeah, we about to have a panic attack over here.
Everyone likes that word.
so where individuals of all backgrounds and experiences are embraced and will succeed and flourish. I know what you're saying, but we're getting rid of an and somewhere in there.
Should be a comma, Ms. McQuinn, after embraced.
No, I don't think we need one there.
Okay.
When in doubt, leave it out.
Next paragraph. Everybody good with that one?
We still don't have the word inspire. We got to stick that in somewhere, don't we?
Yeah, can I
Dr.
need to
Robinson?
mess with the first paragraph. So I want are embraced, comma, affirmed, comma, and inspired, period. They will succeed and flourish. Food for thought. And I think we also need a paragraph that really talks about the adults. We have accountability in here, but I think that we need to have a statement that talks about this is a good place to work, and that the adults are inspired and affirmed so that they can inspire and affirm the children. I mean, I don't have a paragraph in mind, but we need to say something about the adults.
Why don't we put the school district of Palm Beach County is an educational working environment, comma, where both adults and students are unimpeded by bias or discrimination. After the word environment, put where both
Okay.
adults and students.
Okay.
And that kind of helps with that working piece. It brings it in.
Some students are adults, though. So maybe it should be adult.
Covers both of them.
Yeah.
Employees and students, is that what you would
Adults
prefer?
and students because it covers a broader range. We have adult learners, we have student learners, we have employees. We'll have interns that we working for. So
Adults and
And
youth.
children, adults and children, where both adults and children are unimpeded.
students, we have adult ed program, we have, students is all encompassing.
Right, but we
Students is
separated
students.
adults.
So can we say we're employees and we're students and employees?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. This is a little-
Or you can use staff.
I love staff. I don't like employees. Or how about students and staff? Let's put students first. We used staff. I was very attached to it. I remember it.
Everybody like all three paragraphs? Ms. Philicentia, can you take out from draft equity statement out of the beginning of the first paragraph? I mean, the second
Yes.
paragraph?
I don't know,
Brill?
I don't know if you'll like this, but where you have "they will succeed and flourish," I keep thinking all will succeed and flourish.
Is they one of those gender neutral? I'm still learning the whole.
Yeah, they is gender neutral. I thought there was a problem with the word all. Isn't there an issue with that?
There is, yeah, you would, instead of using the word all, consider either the words each or every.
That's right. How about each and every one? Okay. Now I'm just getting happy over here. Okay.
I think that's not bad, though. Each and every.
Each will would work.
Everyone.
And each and every one will succeed and flourish.
And
Now
it's
we get
gender
real
neutral.
aspirational.
I'm just my only indication, why is they, like, why is all an issue? That's the first I'm hearing that.
Because all doesn't really mean all. Okay, I'm sorry.
No, you're right. This is your thing. I'm just remembering it.
I don't think Dr. Fenoy's mic is on. He's just asking Mary why is all.
I'm sorry, I could not hear.
Mayor, I was just wondering why all was a word that we needed to consider.
Yeah, all, unfortunately, because it has a connotation of a large group or a conglomerate, whereas when you use the word each or every, it has an embedded in it, I'll use the word, embedded in it a personalization, a recognition of seeing people as individuals as opposed to a collective all, which we know has been problematic for decades.
The all would then encompass the majority and the individual is lost within it. Okay.
Yes.
Mrs. McQuinn?
Okay, love those first two. And notice that we did not put one, we didn't make everyone a compound word. I like it's everyone. I really like that. Now, going down to that third one, so we're not going to begin with the prepositional phrase. So if we say a joy of learning, if we start with a joy of learning is fostered in each student, or however we want to do that, and a positive vision for their future is nurtured. So, and get rid of, so just move for each student to after fostered. And we want to begin with the joy of learning anyway.
Where would we be without teachers anyway?
I don't know. Remember, the only reason I didn't major in English, I didn't want grade papers.
We have the first two paragraphs start with the school district of Palm Beach County, so do you want it to be here too? No? Okay. Do you like joy?
So good.
Mrs. Quinn, are you happy with that paragraph now?
I'm thoroughly happy with it.
Good. If you're happy, we're happy. Any other comments?
Are we keeping the "we see you" part at the bottom? I liked it. We never read it through when we read it through.
But it's powerful.
Yeah, I like it.
So that's it, group?
I feel like we get to go home early.
It's looking that way. Okay, so again, just because it's helpful to hear it, would somebody be willing to read what you have out loud for us?
If I may?
Go ahead, Dr. Fenoy.
We envision the school district of Palm Beach County as an educational and working environment where those students and staff are impeded by bias or discrimination. Individuals of all backgrounds and experience are embraced, affirmed, and inspired. Each and every one will succeed and flourish. The school district of Palm Beach County will take ownership for students' academic mastery, emotional intelligence, and social emotional needs by creating environments where students, families, staff, and communities will develop agency and voice. A joy of learning is fostered in each student, and a positive vision for the future is nurtured, for their future is nurtured. Each student's cultural heritage is valued, and their physical, emotional, and academic and social needs are supported. We see you. My only question is there. Are we allowed to say that? Like vision
Yeah.
for their future? Isn't that one of those words?
Yeah, there is good.
It's good? Okay.
Can I ask the first part? We envision, isn't it that, the school district? We envision, it doesn't seem like a sentence. You don't? You just put we envision and then you're good? Okay.
Okay, we good? Dr. Robinson?
Supported, can I find another word? I mean, support is nice. The last word.
Or met?
You.
M-E-T?
Physical, emotional, academic, and social needs are met. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, good?
Beautiful.
So,
Okay,
Do we need to add a paragraph like Dr. Robinson said about the employees?
No, we included them.
Okay, so that's enough?
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember. I just want to make sure.
so we okay for this on the March 5th board meeting for adoption? Yes, board members?
Do we not have to run it by people?
you do not have to run this one by people if you don't want the mission and the vision, because this is governance work. These are the umbrella statements. If you would like to, you can, but this is not something that would be required that you do. But that is up to the will of the board, what they would like to do with that. These are both scheduled for your May 5th meeting, and this is the piece that the strategic planning process is waiting on. And I do wanted to just, Ms. Villavicencio, at the bottom of the screen, I believe there's the equity definition from March to pull up. I'm just seeing
Yes, so I can read that for Mary. Equity
thank you.
means, equity means each student, regardless of race, ethnicity, nationality, gender identity, disability, sexual orientation, religion, or socioeconomic status, will have access to the opportunities, resources, and support they need to attain their full potential.
That's an accepted definition of what educational equity means, and does. So just wanted to, if you needed that for any framing, just wanted you to know that it's there for you. And at this point,
Hold on one second, Ms.
Go ahead.
Furtakis.
Go ahead.
Mrs. McQuinn?
So while, under the mission, I didn't want to distract us earlier, but I really like what Ms. Furtakis said, the mission of, it makes better sense. The mission of the School District of Palm Beach County is to.
Dr. Robinson?
Okay, so maybe I was asleep at the wheel. We agreed to that using that definition
We did.
with the word potential in it? I agreed to potential.
No, we used that, and then we kind of got to the draft equity statement. But I
Okay.
think if there are things, just little things that we can tease out here, because I think, I just want to be sure that we all know what equity means before we leave, because to Dr. Robinson's point, like, that's just critical to all the things that the steering committee is doing. So if there's something there, let us know, but we want to be able to use a definition with our other stakeholders.
We agreed to the paragraph in yellow, Dr. Robinson, not to the first one up there.
No, not yet, but it's, it's a trigger word though, but, cause it's so subjective. And, that's that old, that's good for you because you're from a single family home. That's your potential, that thing, right? So yeah, because I was like, I was really asleep if I voted for that because, yuck. right? And then, so the other thing is, I just had to say, so, okay, so we're using equity as a verb, correct? Because I keep telling people equity is a noun and it's a verb. We're using the verb, right? So, yeah, so what we're saying is equity is actions we're going to take to lead to some equitable outcome, which I hope at some point in time we define what our aspiration is for that equitable outcome, which I call the portrait of the graduate. I don't care what we call it, but I do think that we need to set some expectations on what we want our young people to have coming out of our high schools.
Maybe we could get rid of the part of the sentence where it says to attain their full potential. Just get rid of the whole thing. Just say they need, period.
You need to stop reading my mind, Mrs. Whitfield.
Sorry.
Yeah, but according to who? In order to do what? So this is what I'm focused on this equity, the noun. So we could say that's what you need because, you know, whatever, you're gonna do X, Y, Z for a living. That's all you need, right? But you're gonna be a rocket scientist. We've proclaimed it so. So you need something else. Like okay, so I'm sorry, but this is important to me. I just think we are spinning our wheels with we have some really nice words here. But if we do not figure out where we're trying to go at a minimum, then it's just, we're not focused enough, right?
Give us an example of what you're trying to say.
Okay, so let's pretend that we decide that we want every one of our students prepared to go to law school. I'm just making this up, right? So then we can say, well, here's what you need coming out of high school to walk you effectively and efficiently into law school, right, in 4 years or less. Well, if coming into kindergarten, your vocabulary is half of whatever is considered normal, then we have to make up for that in our equity work, right? It's because I'm telling you, this system, we had equity in one of those previous statements. We have never had this conversation about what equity means to this level as a board. And equity, I used to say, is bless them according to their needs. But in my mind, and this has been my head for 2 decades, so if I'm crazy, it's been a long time. There's an algebraic equation for this, essentially, right? And so you can say, to get here, then we can back map it and say you should have these scores, you should have had algebra in 8th grade or whatever. We could back map that to essentially the prenatal care. So now, suppose you didn't have one of those attributes poured into you. To get you to catch up, then we have to invest someplace else. That ain't making no sense because y'all ain't math people, huh? Okay, so, okay, you understand? Listen, this is an algebraic, you got it? You understand what I'm saying? Okay, somebody understands. You're a lawyer, aren't you? Yeah. What you doing understanding that? Okay, so what I'm saying is, I'm just so very clear that we have to have a minimum, and I could outline it. So I can say that that I want every one of our graduates to, I would start by pulling the criteria for entering a state college, right? You had to have, if it's 4 years of foreign language, if it's, you know, a certain SAT score. Like, I want to set a benchmark on what our goal is, since we're aspiring, what our goal is for each and every student. Now, is it gonna be 100%? I know it's not, right? But what is our goal? Are we aspiring to do something great? Are we just using words, nice words, and then we're gonna do the same old blame somebody for it, right? Usually the parents. So, we just need to have, so I'm gonna make up and say, I think that every student should participate in a team sport, right? Or in band, because people need to understand that you work together. And in order to make the machine work, everybody has their own role. That's why I would include that. I would include that I want children to be trilingual. Okay, I'm gonna put that every child has, after school, can access after-school experiences to broaden their horizons, right? Every student has had Algebra 1 in 8th grade. Every student has had at least 4 AP, IB, or ACE courses. Like, we need to set a benchmark, right? And that, to me, that's what we talk to the community about. This other stuff, like, I really don't understand why, if I'm understanding correctly what we've been talking about, we're gonna socialize the equity statement, but not the mission and vision, if I heard correctly. What I think we need to hear from community, and especially from our young people, is what's your biggest dream? And how do we help you get there? And then how do we set our sights on getting the masses to this particular point? Because otherwise, we're still sorting children again. We're using nice words, and we're sorting children. So if we say algebra in 8th grade, because that's an easy benchmark to focus on. If we say Algebra 1 in 8th grade, by 8th grade, if not before, right? Then what do we do with the children that are now in 5th grade who have not been excelling, okay, in math? Then that means we need to invest in some pre-algebra summer programs or after-school programs or something, if we're gonna set that target. Right? Because we're saying all this happy stuff, but we are, without clear focus and direction, we're going to let the system keep doing what it's been doing, I'm afraid.
My question, wouldn't that play out at the school level?
Then let the school do is each of them do their own equity mission.
No, what I mean by that is, so if I have, like, the other week I met with 25 recent graduates of the school district. What they believe we should be doing is completely different than what we think. They think, look, I have these degrees, like the young man who graduated, I think, from Lakes or Santa Lucia, who was Kamala Harris's personal aide during the campaign. He said, I have these degrees, but I'm finna open my own businesses. Mm-hmm. So he was very clear that his degrees are not going to help him with what he wants to do. And every young man in that audience, so like, for whatever, like I think I've said it to all of you individually, something's happened during this COVID experience where this entrepreneurial spirit, this financial literacy thing, has become a fundamental part that we have not seen. And so the question, so I guess what I'm confused about, are you saying that all of those bullet points and specificity should be included in the equity statement?
No.
Okay.
I'm saying equity, the noun, is an outcome, okay?
Okay.
If it's an algebraic equation, it's the equal x, it's the x, okay? So unless we figure out what we expect, what our goal is for every student, right? Then we're just moving stuff around. We should have, every student has some entrepreneurial training. Listen, the young men I gave birth to been telling me this for years, okay? And the financial literacy, they want more than financial literacy.
They want
right?
a bunch of it.
Yes, but what we need to have the conversation is, what do I want for my grandchildren? What do you want for your children? And then take that on the road. What do you want for your children and grandchildren? So we get a better idea, because we're still operating in this old paradigm, and the paradigm we're operating in still lets school-based decisions and value judgments on that child's ability, right, to sort them. And either we mean this, or like, I'm I get frustrated because we see all this happy stuff, and then I'm gonna see the system operating as usual. It's gonna make my hair catch on fire, right? So either we're gonna set the outcome for what we want for these babies, or y'all just let me know that this is just happy talk so I can get my brain in order, okay?
So I guess the answer to that is we will do that. So we'll do that.
All right, I got board.
I'm starting with the kids next week. So maybe you weren't at the first part of the meeting. So I met with the groups that we were talking about of students getting together. And so we were going to work on the portrait of a graduate with the kids starting like next week. So I met with them yesterday. And so I told them we would begin to set that process and move forward. So maybe is that what you're talking about?
Not just that, we need to talk to people who are excelling in different areas to say what was the critical point in your experience. We need to talk to college admissions officers to say, what is it that you see? Like, and then we need to dream collectively. Like, so whatever it is you're getting from these young people needs to be brought here so we can dream collectively. Because then that is what's going to tell us how we allocate resources. Because those babies whose parents don't have the resources to take them for, and the wherewithal, the knowledge to understand how important, in this example, algebra is as a gatekeeper course. We need to do that because other children are going to Kumon or Sylvan or wherever they're going,
Athanasian.
right? Or else, unfortunately, they're getting really, really affirmed in their home school and they're excelling, while others are not. And so unless we set these benchmarks, in that book, Leading for Equity, he had specific benchmarks. I think we need to have more than that, but he had benchmarks to look at. One of them is reading in third grade. We look at our data. The question is, what are we doing? Now, so I know we have all these plans for summer that Dr. Sheffield and Mr. Oswald have outlined to try to address that, but what else are we going to do? Because that's reactionary. Now we need a long-term plan so that in 5 years that we have a lower percentage of children reading below grade level at 3 years, and we have a plan in place that's a matter of routine to address those needs.
So really what you're saying is you have to create.
I have other board
cadence of
members who want to
accountability.
speak on this, so let's,
Create the cadence
Okay.
of accountability to make the adjustments based on the information that we receive. It's a 40X
I'll
principle.
go
I
with
got
that,
it.
but I still need to focus on the goal.
Yeah, I got it.
Okay.
Ms. Brill, then Ms. McQuinn, then Mrs. Andrews.
So, Dr. Robinson, I hear what you're saying, but it's frustrating me to where I'm getting, to the point of realizing that I understand what you mean, but you're also excluding our students with disabilities whose families would just be happy if they could graduate and get a job or get training. So that I understand that you're looking at algebra as a gatekeeper. It's not a gatekeeper for every student. So I don't want to impose my dreams on someone else, because I know that we have so many students with disabilities. Yes, a lot of them have a lot more potential that we've not tapped into, but what you're saying is not realistic. Look, my son graduated with no skills because of the district. So, I don't want that for other students with disabilities. I want them to have job skills. I want them, the most important thing that was up there when we were reading everything before for me is joy of learning, because that's what I focused on with my children, which is why I really believe my son was so successful, because he learned that everybody has differing abilities, but I don't want to impose, algebra or we have to take the whole spectrum of our graduates and raise them up. So I don't know how specific I want to
Exactly.
be. So
Exactly.
that's it.
But what we're not doing now is doing that for huge numbers of children.
Dr.
right?
Robinson, Ms. McQuinn, then Mrs. Andrews, then I'll come back to you. Ms. McQuinn?
I would just like to come up there, the support they need to accomplish their dreams. I'm bringing the dream in there, which you can get the dream after the portrait is designed. Then they can figure out what they dream. But we could put dream in there.
Mrs. Andrews?
That's all I have to say.
I hear you, Dr. Robinson, and I love the words, because we've really been sitting here doing some great words. And I hear you too, Ms. Brill. But I think what Dr. Robinson is saying, and I may not be right here, but, we know where these children are. It's easy to go out and have a session in the community. We've got to be real with the public, the parents, and the children about what the issues are that need to be addressed. We know that we're not educating. That's why I had a problem with world class. We're not doing the things that we're supposed to be doing. And we as a board, we've got to come in here after listening. We really have to listen to parents. We need to listen to educators. We need to listen to those students that Dr. Fanoa is talking about and others, and begin to kind of put together an action plan on how we address these things. When we look at kids coming into kindergarten, we already know some of them aren't even in the pre-K program. Their parents didn't have the ability to get them in, or they didn't even make the cut here in Palm Beach County to get into a kindergarten program. So they may just be in daycare. So we know who these children are. We have to have high expectations for children wherever they come in. And we know who where these pools of children are. And their parents want them to have everything everybody else is getting. You know what I'm saying? In all of these other schools. So as a board, we've got to figure out, how do we do that when we say all the great things that we have up here, and we're going to inspire them, and we're going to educate them and do all these wonderful things? Then we got to get to the real nitty-gritty of what we need to be doing and identifying. Ms. Burrell, you did a great job, because guess what? You were out there. You were an advocate for your son. And so a lot of ESC parents don't know how to do what you did to get your son where he needed to go. But we as a board, we've got to help all those other parents in every one of these different categories that we're talking about, that we're leaving these children behind. Because we can go out here, and I don't want to go out to a workshop just talking about something that's really aspirational without people knowing that we truly mean what we say, and we're going to come back in here and really do some heavy-duty thinking with the input of the people that we're talking with, and restructure ourselves on how we really educate all children to make sure they're successful, to make sure they can be in the band or to be in a sports, and those who don't have money to stay after school or participate in cheerleaders because they don't have the money to do what has to be done. We've got to come together and figure out how we can be inclusive so we can inspire children so that they can get to the next level. So when I sit here and I hear us, and I think we've done some good work in talking and writing, but now it's time for us to kind of get information and come back to the table and figure out how we do it with the support of others. And I think that's what you might be saying, Dr. Robinson, to some extent.
Ms. Ratakis, then Dr. Robinson.
Yes, thank you. This is great to piggyback on Ms. Andrews, because this is where I was going to be going. This is an important conversation to be having, and what you're talking about is the how. The board's role on the governance piece is you're doing the what. You are the ones who are looking at what the district's mission is and what the vision is, which is now going to be feeding into the how it's going to be accomplished. And you have two things going on where you're going to start seeing that. One is all of the strategic plan work. These things that you're talking about are the action steps that will be coming back as objectives under particular pillars, or however they're going to phrase it, that are going to then be action plans, which have to come back to the board, because you're going to be approving the plan and you're going to have to be allocating the resources to make it so. Mm-hmm. The second piece is this portrait of a graduate, which is the how you're going to be implementing the mission and the vision. And so you do have, you've got staff that are working on both of these how pieces. They're just wanting to make sure and needing to make sure that it's in alignment with the what, which you all are just about completed with doing today with your mission and your vision. The equity statement folds into this also, and there's work going on with that to get the input that's going to be coming back to you so that you are ensuring that you're on track with hearing what the community is saying. So I wanted to help you pull us back a little bit to the fact that you're doing your piece of this, and the how is you're on that timeline that we have with the strategic planning process, portrait of a graduate development. All of those things are going to be coming back for the board to also be looking at what you've said in your equity statement, your mission and your vision, and asking those essential questions to ensure that these words are not just words, but they are being implemented and embedded in those other pieces that will be carrying you forward.
Dr. Robinson?
Thank you. So there may be portraits of a graduate that are the how. Mine is the what, right? And so if you compare it to, so for example, if you look at what do you have to accomplish to get bright futures, it's like that. It's like these are the things that we want all of our graduates to have. And I know it's not going to be 100%, but I'm going to tell you what else I know. So years ago, when they were doing the special diplomas, I tried to figure out and tried to get this system to change, that they would start at 8th grade when they would have the meeting with students with IEPs and their parents, that they would start with, we're going to have this student on track for a standard diploma. And if they were going to make it a special diploma, that they would have to justify that. Because we deny children access to greater opportunities with how we see them, and we hold back. So I'm not saying it's gonna be 100%, but it ain't no point dreaming no little dreams. If you're gonna set a goal and you know you're gonna make 100%, your goal is too little.
Ms. Brill?
So all I'm asking is that we make sure our goals are inclusive. And just a little sidebar, when they came out with special diplomas, there was an ongoing joke in the disability community, what's the difference between a standard diploma and a special diploma? And the answer was a future. Mm-hmm. So, that's something that plays in my mind.
Ms. Furtakis?
So what I want to see, because we've been talking on the governance level and the overarching, it would be helpful, I think, to hear from Dr. Fenoy, because you're the operations side and the implementation and this work, as part of the board superintendent team, what your thoughts are related to what we've been working on and looking like we're coming to consensus about.
Well, I think what the board has created is gives you a very clear vision of how all of our next pieces that will be designed by staff will now we know where we're going. This is sort of like a North Star, right? And so as I work with the students on their pieces, as the board goes out and gets feedback from the community, and then as the specific teams on every one of the divisions starts working towards the strategic plan, then all those specific steps will be included, but it will all have this central focus that the board has now given us in terms of our mission and vision. So this is very exciting because it allows us now to put the rubber to the road once the board fully adopts this language, and then we can tailor all of our work moving forward specifically to that. And I think also in terms of the cadence of accountability, and you described it well, whatever the staff comes back is coming back to the board for a review, and then ultimately the system. I think the other thing of the last several workshops that is important to me is that unlike our last strategic plan, we just weren't intentional about adjusting it as we went along the way. And so now we're very clear that these are living, breathing documents. They're not stagnant. And so as we set up that cadence amongst ourselves, once we agree to that, we'll be able to make those adjustments. So I think I'm just very pleased and proud that we got these words down. But the real truth is now that it goes to my team to execute on what the board says the vision and the mission of the district is. So we're ready to go.
Mrs. Andrews?
Thank you, and Mrs. Furtakis and maybe Dr. Fenoy. I worry because I just met with a group of community people on yesterday, and we were talking about these community meetings that we're getting ready to have. And so many people don't even have a computer or don't have access to be able to be a part of this. And when I hear Dr. Robinson talking about what we need to do for our children, we're talking about some of these people, they'll never be at a community meeting that we're talking to. When we began to have this, and it's a wonderful idea, and we had these community meetings before when we did the strategic plan, we know who's going to actually be there. We're trying to put up some options where some of the people can come over to the technical school and actually get on the computer and work as a team because they don't have it at home. These are these same children that we're talking about, inspiring them, the ones that get left behind so often. We've got to have a mechanism as a board, so once we get that input about what everybody's talking about, we've got to get the voices of those people that are not heard and put a plan together to help them. I know you're going to get things, but these are the same people that we want to get the IB diplomas, to take ACE, to be in the band, to do all these things. These are parents that we keep missing. And I think we're heading in a direction to kind of do it the way we've always done, but I need to see a component there as to how we're going to get those other voices and what will the board do with those voices as it relates to all the other voices that we're going to get as we begin to map out what the strategy is going to be to do this inspiring work that we're talking about.
Ms. Furtakis?
I can make a couple of statements, and this is, again, going into the operations piece, so I would want to hear Dr. Fenoy's input also. We grappled with this also, and granted, I'm coming from a smaller system than you all are, and at the same time, I don't think that that's, we can be hiding behind excuses. You've identified a key thing, access, and who has information. It's also language-based, the tech, all of those things. So when we're talking about changing a system and changing a culture, it's taking a look, an intentional look at what are we doing, what's the way we've been conducting business, what has been our normal, and what needs to be done differently. And so in doing that intentional work, we went out to where people were. We have a lot of apartment complexes. We know where particular communities were living, and childcare was always an issue too. So we went out to the community space, and again, this was in a pre-COVID world, but you know, you can think through this. But going to where people are instead of expecting them to come to you is a significant shift in how we approach getting input. You all are the ones who have the information. You know exactly from your data. We've gone over it, and I've listened to you in a couple of your other workshops talking about the disparities. They're clear, and you're all aware of them. So you have that information. What then does the response need to be intentionally reaching out to those you already know who are have been historically marginalized, and ensuring what do they need to be able to participate in this process? Dr. Fenoy, what you might like to add?
No, I think it's a fair statement. So we'll follow what every board member, then we'll get the information that they need, and we'll make the necessary adjustments. And Mr. Tierney and his team have already talked through it. And so it's just a matter of letting us know where to go, and we'll start the process. I mean, that's specifically why, like, Ms. Whitfield has me speaking at the Guatemala Mining Center on Friday. Oh, no, it's tomorrow. It's tomorrow. Hopefully my shop won't have me out. But so I think I'll just be relying on the board to help us with that, and we'll be fine.
Ms. Furtakis, when we did this 5 years ago or 4 years ago, whatever the time was, we did do that. We went out to all over the community. We had people come, and they were able to gather. Of course, it was pre-COVID, and they came up to the microphone, and they asked their questions and gave their comments. So, I mean, the board and the district spent a lot of time going out to the people. Unfortunately, this time it's going to be more difficult just because of the COVID situation. It's people that may want to come, won't come, even if we tell them they're going to be socially distanced because they're just afraid to come into groups. So I guess we'll have to figure out some way to get to those people that Marcia mentioned, that, you know, that certainly we need their input and figure out a way to get it.
I think it's important for the board to realize, because the team was able to create these apps, you know, we got almost 30,000 people to respond. And so a lot of people were using their cell phones to respond. So I'm exceptionally impressed. I talked to other superintendents. They're like, how did you get 28,000 people to respond to a survey during COVID? But I think that's just a testament to how the communications team, over the course of COVID, have really been trying their best to figure out how to reach people in every avenue. But I think now, with the board's direction, you tell us where we need to go, and let's talk to our regional superintendents who also know their communities well. I've been very fortunate to speak to a lot of the municipality leaders, the local mayors and chamber members, and so we have an infrastructure to find that information, and then we'll just make the necessary adjustments.
All right, Ms. Furtakis.
Okay, and I think, Ms. Villavicencio, do you have I think it's our last slide, which is next steps.
Yes, I just want to make sure this equity definition we added to accomplish their dreams. I just want to make sure, because if this is something that y'all are doing your community meetings, Chief of Staff's office is preparing, you know, a baseline presentation and talking points for y'all to iterate off of. I just want to make sure, because y'all will have to define, if you speak to equity, what that is. So I just want to make sure that looks good.
Dr. Robinson.
So I'm kind of flashing back on Dr. Fenoy's previous comments. So can we say support, like resources and support, they need to develop, grow something, and accomplish their dreams? Develop and achieve.
If we want it to look like our equity statement, we have to add in undocumented status.
Can we stick nurture in there too? Or so, no, I'm just saying. So it's like develop and grow this thing like a
Like the word nurture really encapsulates what you're trying to say, Dr. Robinson. Mm-hmm. It's a great word.
Identify, but there's like this, first it's like you gotta have the kernel of the dream, then you have to grow it, then you have to achieve it. Yeah,
So
I know.
can they
Doing a
imagine?
garden.
Do we want to help them imagine their dreams?
Oh,
Imagine, nurture, and, hello.
Ms. Brill?
So I'm going back to what Dr. Fenoy pointed out, which I've also seen, is that they don't know to dream because they think their circumstances are limiting them. So I was thinking if you move the word dream further up, support they need to, because you have all those pieces. I can't read it, but I know it's support they need to dream and then go into the rest of it because they need.
Argue that the way we have it now leads up to what the final.
Can you
thing
read
we
it?
want.
Because I can't see
It
it.
says, well, I'll just read the whole thing. Equity means each student, regardless of race, ethnicity, nationality, gender identity, disability, sexual orientation, undocumented status, religion, or social economic status, will have access to the opportunities, resources, support they need to imagine, nurture, and achieve their dreams.
Okay.
It's the build-up.
Mr. Barbieri. I'm sorry, I looked back at the equity statement. There's two other things that we didn't put in there. One would be, we have poverty in here, so obviously it would mean income, right? And then language status also, if we want them to align.
Okay. Cool.
Right? Good?
Okay, if we're good, then we can go to our last slide on next steps, which you've started a little bit. And so you have a May 5th meeting coming up where the mission and the vision statements are going to be on the agenda. And they are, in a format now that you should be very proud of, and they're strong and they're clear. And they're in a state where your staff can be moving forward with the work that they're doing to keep that timeline and the accountability piece in place for your expectations of how this work is proceeding. The draft equity statement is you've generated your list. I'm not sure who the lead person is for facilitating the feedback piece, but that also is going to be and that's something you all will need to work out and be clear about the timeline for this so that it is also coming back to the board. And that's going to take a little bit longer. We generated quite a list, but you have what you need and what your system needs to be moving forward. If there are some additional next steps that Dr. Fenoy or others want to communicate to the board, then please feel free to do so at this point.
No, not at this time. The team has all the steps outlined, and we'll continue to follow up with the board as necessary.
Dr. Robinson?
Thank you.
Dr. Robinson?
okay, so just straighten me out here. So we're doing community input on the equity statement or the mission or the vision or everything? Tell me what we're doing.
It's just the equity statement, my understanding was, we're not doing it on mission and vision. Mr. Futaka says that's a decision this board makes.
And so why, help me understand that. Because what I know is we're going to take that equity statement out there. The people who are going to come are the people who are already being serviced by the system, basically, right? And so they're going to see this equity statement as threatening. Like, what do you mean? Like, you're taking something from my child to give to those children. I mean, I'm just saying that's what's going to happen. And so are we setting ourselves up? Because then you're going to come back, or somebody might come back and say, well, you know, they said this and that and the other. Well, let me just tell you, that's what they're going to say. And we're setting ourselves up to walk back the equity statement. And so I'm trying to understand, why are we taking the equity statement on the road and not the mission or the vision or the portrait of a graduate? So
Ms. McQuinn?
I do believe that it is the board's responsibility, and of course, you know, I'm in my 5th year now, but we've had the discussion. It is our vision and mission, and in my mind, our equity statement. Now, it goes on the road for people to say, this is what we need to make that happen. That's what you put into our strategic plan that staff will bring to us. For to me, that's the community input. I think our equity statement, I mean, we all liked it. I think we wordsmithed it, and it's our equities. I mean, frankly, because I have a community that will push back. So it's either our equity statement or it isn't. I don't want people who have not engaged in all these hours to now, frankly, change it.
Ms. Brill?
Thank you. And so my vision of bringing it out would also be to go out, you share your vision, you share your mission, share your equity statement. I don't see my community pushing back, but I want them to know this is what we're looking at, and get their input on how they can help, get their buy-in. To me, it's a way to promote what we're doing, because as Mrs. McQuinn said, and Dr. Robinson, we don't want them to have an opportunity to push back. This should be, we have to make it a firm statement. Yes, there were some words. I mean, I'm still struggling with agency, but you know what? I'll live with it, because the crux of it, the guts, everything that we put together is just so good that I think it's our opportunity to put it out there, to share it with the community, to get their buy-in. If they have issues, they can share them, but you know what? This is where we're going, period.
I agree. I mean, we've spent hours and hours on the equity statement. We've had many, many discussions over the years about equity, and all the meetings we've had up till now. To go out to the community and let them start nitpicking it and taking it apart and changing words is like, it's a waste of our time. We've spent the time, we've got the information. A lot of these people don't even have the information as to the, the statistics and all the data that that's been shared with us by the administration. I think we need to go out there and say, this is what the board wants to accomplish. How do you all think we should do it to get to those, make it happen on our mission, vision, and our equity statement? Agreed? Agreed. So, Ms. Furtakas, we don't want to take the equity statement out to the community for them to start wordsmithing it and pushing back and saying, I don't like this term in there, because as Dr. Robinson says, now you're taking something from my kids and giving it to some other kids, so let's not even go there. Give them the opportunity to do that.
This is a decision the board needs to make. The reason we looked at taking the equity statement out is the recognition that not all perspectives were represented, because the whole piece of equity is centering those who have been marginalized and addressing that. So that if you want to approach it that way, the other reality of this is it doesn't matter what you do, you are going to get pushback on it. That is part of being a leader, and you're doing some significant disruption to the existing culture. And that is also something that needs to be very intentionally thought through. We covered it a little bit in one of the December workshops when we talked about the curb cut effect and how we change the narrative around equity so that people understand this is not you losing something or a zero-sum issue. It's ensuring that everybody is getting what they need and the supports they need to excel. And so that has to be part of the communication around this. Now, this is part of your how, and this is part of work for staff, but this is why your communications department is a critical piece to this entire process, and helping you educate the community about what it is that you're trying to do. And there is the reality, you just have to accept the fact you are going to get pushback. And is the board committed to holding the line on what you've said, because you know it matters for students and everything that you're saying that you're envisioning for them?
Well, I think we eliminate the pushback, some of the pushback, by not giving the opportunity to change what we've already agreed to. So we go out there and tell them, this is it. This is what the board's going to do, and whether you like it or not, this is our mission, this is our vision, and this is our equity statement. And, I don't want this to turn into, it'll be divisive. God knows there's enough divisiveness in this country already without going out, each one of these groups is going to want to change something to favor their group over somebody else's group. I don't think we need to go there. I mean, we've been absolutely inclusive. I mean, we've put every possible, group, the needs of all the different types of people that live in the community in here. I don't see why we should go out there and have them start, pushing back and making it more beneficial to their own, that's what'll happen. So the board doesn't want to do that. Dr. Robinson?
Thank you. So we're scheduling these sessions. So I understand the point is we want to get, well, there's one point of view that we want to get input on how we should accomplish our new set goals, right?
Right.
And so, I mean, I think that we can just state, here's our mission, vision, and equity statement. How do we get there? But I'm gonna promise you, I'm gonna ask them about the portrait of a graduate. I'm going to ask the community, what are the skills and experiences you think young people need to have coming out of 12th grade? I'm going to ask. That's what I need to know. That's the conversation I hear from my sons and their friends, right? And I need to broaden that because I think that that's our target. So, and I know I'm a little bit OCD about it. I think we should have done that before we did all this, but all this is good, but we still need to have a target.
Mrs. Whitfield and Mrs. Andrews?
I think that's a great question for all of us to ask is what do you want your children to have accomplished when they're done with school? So I think that would be very valuable for all of us to ask. But the other question I kind of just had for staff was what else are we expected to do during this time with our constituents if we're taking out this equity piece? Not asking that question.
Mrs. Andrews?
Yeah, I wanted to add, I know what she's saying. Okay, go ahead on.
Yes, so for the community meetings that we have organized, they're meant to be updates to your constituents, as well as time for question and answer framed around the strategic plan and your equity work. So they will just be, hey, this is what we've been working on. These are the things that we're presenting to you. And then how do we implement that? We're working on our strategic plan. What do you think about these priorities or those priorities? So Chief of Staff's office is working on that presentation so that every community meeting has a foundation and every constituent base receives the same information. And then, if there are things that board members want to do to personalize that, you can do that. We will be having dry runs before your community meetings so that you can see you'll be supported by educational technology and a communications person as a moderator for the Q&A. So we won't leave you hanging there out alone, but we're really trying to use what the Council of Great City Schools told us, that, we're partners in this work with our board members. Who knows the community more than you as their elected officials? So, staff is doing what they can to, look under all the rocks and get everybody to the table. But I know, I'll shout out Dr. Robinson, put me in contact with the Black Student Union representative. Like, please continue to do that so that staff can have that in to make those inroads and then come sit at the table with us as we do this work. So more information on the community meetings coming, but that's kind of what that hour will look like with your constituents.
Ms. Brew?
All I was going to say is, and I know Mrs. Whitfield's been reading my mind all afternoon, but I was just going to make the statement that I think we should add to when we go to our communities what Dr. Robinson is doing in hers, which, what is your portrait of a graduate? I think we all should get that feedback. So I would like to see that globally for every board member to ask the community that.
Yeah, I think those are very great questions for you to ask. I mean, obviously, I'm meeting with the kids about it. So, and then we will take that information and go through the formal process. There's a very in-depth process that I've now been studying. And so I have it scheduled to go and I have the timelines laid out. So whatever information you give me, I will add that to the whole coffer as I start that process.
Okay, so I just need clarity from you all. We had put on our next step, scheduling the mission and vision statements for adoption at what will now be the May 5th meeting. Are you wanting to add the equity statement to that also as an action item?
Yes, looks like everybody's a yes. Ms. McQuinn, you had a question before Ms. Furtakis asked that.
So when Ms. Brill and Ms. Whitfield were talking about the portrait of a graduate, absolutely. That is what I wanted to make sure in my community meeting, that's what I want them to talk about. I want to update them on where we are because just, again, walking my dog, people are happy that the superintendent made a decision about when we come back to school, et cetera. So I want to update them on that and then, share where we are and tell them that we're starting now these meetings. How do we make this happen? And that I can tell you from the very old days when I was a math specialist in South County, working with school advisory councils, they literally drew pictures. I can picture the big paper now on the walls. They drew pictures in groups of what a graduate looked like. So if we did it all those years ago, we can do that again. You've got to be able to put a picture to it. So I want that portrait of a graduate piece in there. Thank you.
So, Ms. Furtakis, go ahead, Ms. Sanders.
Yes, I just think that we're on different dates, and certainly it's our groups, and we can decide to discuss what we want to discuss. But I would like to see just a outline, and maybe that's what you're talking about, is that there's going to be a little outline of actually how this whole process will run, how many minutes, how much time is given for feedback. I just want to make sure there's some kind of structure there before I get out there to be doing these community meetings. I want to kind of know exactly, and I'm going to try to look at all of you, but I just want to know exactly how it's going to flow. I don't need you to tell me what to say, but I would like to see the flow, the process for each one of us based on whatever we're going to be saying. The portrait of the graduate, Barbie said she was talking about getting back to school or whatever. I just really want to know, you have 5 minutes for this. How many minutes will the people get a chance to have a comment? Because, when we went out the last time, people said it was just us talking and they didn't get a chance to have input. Who's taking the notes? I assume it's somebody from technology that's going to be there with us taking notes and writing things. I don't know how it's going to look or feel, and it's coming up soon. So I think we need to, the board members need to kind of have a better handle on what this is all going to look like and feel like, and it may be different from each one of us based on what we're doing, but we need to have a basic premise of what it's going to look like and feel like.
Yeah, you will have that, and not only will you have that, you will also have a rehearsal. So we have all of that already spelled out for you. You'll be getting that next week.
And I told them I wanted to go last because I want to watch all of you do it first. So I know exactly how to do it. So, Ms. Furtakis, I guess we're going to bring the equity statement then, not guess. The board wants to bring the equity statement back to the May 5th meeting for adoption also.
Okay, fantastic. So the only thing we have left to do today is need to thank Ms. Villavicencio for all of the note-taking that she's been doing to get this, to help us see what your wonderful, powerful statement is. And then I just want to thank each of you in spite of all of the things that have been going on and things that we've recognized are happening. I really want to commend you for how you've leaned in and your participation. And I think it's just incredibly timely, everything that you're doing. And it's really the most important work we can be doing right now on behalf of students and families. So thank you for the opportunity to partner with you in that to this point.
Thank you. Dr. Robinson?
I think in preparation for these community meetings, though, I think that we need to have some written talking points on how to respond when we get those students' comments. Like, I could start wandering around and trying to talk about the curb cut effect, but it's just, I'm not very efficient at getting that message out. So if you can help us with that, right?
Yes, we agree. We've already thought about that. Yes, ma'am.
Mrs. McQuinn?
And I would like for Dr. Robinson, it could be in a very informal fashion, I would like some, I can do this, agency descriptions. Seriously. I learn from these things.
I
It doesn't
actually
have to be
sent one to
perfect.
board office group a little bit ago.
Fine, whatever. I
Okay.
just want those in front of me. And I have to be on the record as saying, I'm perfectly comfortable doing which so irritates me, I just need to get that out of the way. It's they're our students, and I am letting you know that my communities know me. They have no problem calling or emailing, or most of them now have my text. I'm just letting you know that they'd rather see Dr. Fenoy than Barbara McQuinn. And I've told him that already. That's who they'd rather see. They want to see their superintendent. So get that off my chest.
All right. If that's, anybody else?
To that. And that's why we've got to be ready to make sure that we're representing the school district at our best. So I'm hoping that all of this practice you're talking about, since you're not going to be there, we're the face of the school district.
All right. If there's nothing else, Ms. Furtakis, I guess we're ready to end? All right. Mr. Paterno, do you have anything else?
No, sir. Thank the board for their work today.
We'll take a motion to adjourn. Motion by Mrs. Andrews, second by Ms. Ayala. Any discussion? All in favor, opposed? Motion carries. Meeting is adjourned.